Hi, my name is Maria Paula and this is my analysis and decoding of the built environment exercise. So first I'm going to be talking about popular housing in Bogota, for which I chose these three projects, which are located in Engativá and Suba. The first two are Engativá and the third one is Suba. I chose this as popular because first of all, they are located in places which used to be their own little towns, but with time and as Bogota grew bigger, they became part of Bogota, even though they were their own like small cities before. And I also chose them because they are located near wetlands. And during my time as a biology student, I have noticed that near wetlands, people tend to create a different sort of relationship with their environment, in which they kind of like reject the gray areas, the gray parts of the city that keep growing, and there's this kind of like battle between people that love their natural areas around them and the city that keeps on growing. So for the first one, which is Jauque Reservado, I analyzed the public and the private this way. The public is of course the first part of the house that you will see when entering. I've noticed that in Bogota's layouts of apartments, they always place the dining table near the door, and if you will keep going up front to the other side of the house, you would see the living room. And to enter the private part of the house, then you will have to take a right turn. I also found that the washing room is a bit more private than the rest of the part that are on the left side of the house, because it's more enclosed than it usually is. It has like a separate room for itself. So I also highlighted that one with the color blue that represents private. Regarding chores and resting, I found the resting area much bigger than the chores area, and they are pretty much far apart. So the very areas that are like designated specifically for resting are on the opposite side that the areas designated for doing chores such as studying or cooking or washing are located in, with the middle ground being more of like, they are also passive areas, but they're not like exactly like resting areas, which will be the living room and the dining room and the halls and the bathroom. And in regards to how light or dark it is, the windows are usually near these more passive areas, like the living room, the sofa, and they're also located near the windows. They could have maybe placed the bed on the other side of the room, in the darker side of the room, and maybe have placed the closet near the window, but some way they still chose to draw the bed where the window will shine more light on. And so areas like the kitchen, the bathroom, the halls, they're more darker areas. You wouldn't expect someone to have their door open the whole day. So this dining area would also be generally more dark. And the second project, Mirador de Jauque, this is how the public and the private area is laid out. So once again, near the entrance, you would see the dining room, and further up front, you would see the living room. And in this case, the kitchen is a bit more separated, but it's still kind of more open than the washing room is. If you see, like the washing room is behind the bigger piece of the wall that separates the living room and this other part of the house that has the kitchen and the washing room in. And this could also be seen as more public, but since it's still drawn further away, they could have chosen to put the kitchen further away, but they still chose to put it closer to the door. So I still drew it a bit separated a bit as more private, because there's that other wall that separates it much more. And once again, the more other private areas such as bedrooms and bathrooms are further away from the door. You will have to take a turn to enter them. Again, the chores and resting areas are separated by the living room and the dining room. In this case, we don't have like a study place. It's not drawn in, but it still follows the pattern from the previous project, that they're on the opposite sides of the house, and the chores is more where the public place will be. And again, dark and light places near sofas and beds are where the windows are, so this will be more light, while the other areas of the house are more dark. So with the last project, the Camino Verde, again you can see the public area is the one near the door. Again, one of the first things you see is the dining table and the living room. If you keep walking up front to access the private areas, you have to take a turn, and it's on the further side of the house, more the furthest part away from the door. Again, here chores and resting, and these are a bit more close together because of where they plan to put the computer room, the computer space. This seems near a bedroom, but it still is very much separated by the wall. And in this case, you can see like the kitchen and the washing room are once again very related to each other, and they share the same space, and they are both in more public areas, while the resting areas are once again more private and further away from the door. And again, dark and light, this one has more windows, but the bigger windows are again near beds and the sofa, while the smaller windows, this one has a window on the bathroom and a window near the washing area. But still, the resting, the more calm areas will be the ones that are more illuminated. In general, big aspects, this is how I saw it. So the public is related to the chores, which is related to the dark areas of the houses, which are opposites to the private and the resting and light areas of the houses. So as a comparison, I chose typical housing in Japan. I don't know much about architecture or Japan. I just stumbled upon a fact that sometimes Japanese tend to measure how big a room is depending on how many mats can fit in, traditional mats can fit in. So I found that curious, and well, I decided to stick with Japanese housing because I was just curious about that once. And I found out they designate like a housing which has 2 rooms and a living, dining, kitchen area. It's designated 2 LDK. And I chose this one to compare it to Bogota's housing because the apartments I chose for Bogota also had 2 rooms and a living, dining, and kitchen area. So that's why I chose to do this comparison. So the first layout I found, this is the relation of the public to the private. The rooms are again far away from the door. But in this case, they seem more fragmented, while in Bogota's apartments, the blue areas was a bit more continuous. Here you can see that it forms more of an L shape, and while in Bogota's apartments, the private and the public areas were kind of similar in size. Here you can see that the private areas are also bigger, and like the living and dining kitchen area, it's kind of smaller compared to what it will be like in Bogota. Chores and resting, here what I found is that they only draw in kitchens. They don't draw in like study computer rooms or washing rooms. So I don't know how that works, but that's something that I found and I'm kind of curious about. And again, the resting areas are also bigger, but this time the chores area is much smaller, and you can see that they are still separated by other kind of passive areas. And regarding dark and light, well, here the only light source will be the door, which again I wouldn't expect it to be open the whole day. So the only actual light source during the whole day will be the entrance or exit to the balcony, which will only light up the 2 rooms and will not light up either the bathrooms, the entrance, or the living, dining, and kitchen area. Here in this layout, You can see again that the private is more fragmented and it's also bigger than the public. Again, the public will be what's near the door, but kind of more like up front, because now we have the bathroom being really near the door, which separates it from the rooms and makes it a bit different that what we saw in Bogota's layout. Here again, the chores, again, there's only a kitchen area drawn in, no laundry area, no considered space for a computer, and the resting is again bigger, and it's not as far as the previous example, but it's still separated. Now this one has a bit more windows. There's a smaller window on the kitchen, a little window on the bathroom, but again the main light source would be the balcony, will be the light that's shine from the balcony into the rooms. The third and final layout, this is what I saw regarding the public and the private. Again, the private separated into two, this time with being the bathroom near one room and the other room being far away from the other room, with the entrance separating those two rooms. And again, you could argue this one's more kind of similar in size, but still the private area seems to be bigger than the public area. And to the chores and the resting area, again, there's only one kitchen drawn in, no washing room, no anything else, and only, well, the resting areas, which will be the rooms, are significantly bigger than the kitchen area. And this one has considerably more light sources, including the balcony, the two windows that shine into the living, dining, and kitchen area, and the two windows that go into that one other room, the bigger room, and the window that goes into the bathtub. So in big aspects, this is what I saw. Again, you can see that the public is also more related to the chores, and with the dark, which is a bit more opposed to the private, to the resting, and the light areas. So finally, like comparing the two examples, I think Japan has more private areas. They are much more private. I wasn't taking into account before that they do have special rooms before entering the house, which does not happen in Bogota. You just go right in. Well, in Japan, there's these rooms and these wardrobes that where you're supposed to stop by and leave your stuff before entering the house. While on the resting areas also are bigger in Japan. In Bogota, I mean, there are more chores areas compared to Japan. So I would say a house in Bogota also includes chores more than Japanese houses do. And dark, I also find Japan's layouts are a bit darker because their main light source will be the balconies. They have smaller windows and even less windows sometimes, while Bogota's houses tend to have bigger windows. You can see that they take more space of the wall into account for the windows, and they tend to shine more light in, while Japan's has smaller windows or just the balcony is a light source. And I think Japan's apartments are also bigger, taking into account that they have a living and dining kitchen area and two rooms, the same as Bogota's apartments, but I think they are bigger. And also, again, Japan has many doors. The areas are very divided. You can see the bathroom is separated into different parts. The sink is sometimes different from the toilet. Well, most of the time the sink is different from the toilet, and the toilet is different from the bathtub, while a Colombian bathroom is just everything in one place, and the shower is just divided by maybe curtains or a glass door. And also, well, the entrance to a Japanese house will be much more divided than a Colombian house. You can see that before going in, you have to go maybe through one or two doors before going to the living and dining area, while Bogota's spaces is just much more continuous, and you can just go straight into the kitchen if you wanted to. And that's it. Thank you.